Welcome back to another episode here at Men Explained. We've got a very special guest today. Today's topic is going to be around passion pursuits, career pursuits, getting in touch with an intentional work-life balance, and doing some meaningful work in your life. So we are joined today by a very special guest, Ciarán Halligan, a certified professional and executive coach from Frayling Coaching and Facilitation here in Omaha, Nebraska. Frayling Coaching is a consulting firm helping people work, lead, and live intentional lives doing purposeful work to create a positive impact to those around them. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ciarán. Welcome to the show, man.
Aaron, it's an absolute honor to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we're gonna find out a little bit more about your personal story. What led you to be to help people into finding some intentional work? Tell us a little bit about how you got there, a little bit about your personal story, and what you get from helping people find such purposeful work today.
Yeah, of course. So I'm from Dublin in Ireland, and about a quick intro into kind of what brought me to the States. About 15 or 16 years ago, I was surfing the web on a website called MySpace, which those older ones will remember. And I'm the world's biggest Blink-182 fan. I'm just like obsessed with the band. And I was looking through a MySpace page about Blink-182, and I noticed this woman on the page, and I'm like, oh, we'll say hello, because that's how MySpace was back then, right? You could just say hello to anyone. It was the good old days. So I said hello, and we ended up hitting it off. And long story short, 5 or 6 years later, I planned to quit my job in Ireland. I packed my bags and I moved to New York City to be with her. And 6 years after that, we got married. So it's a great story. We're still together, and we're still living together here in New York. So when I came over from Ireland, obviously I was Irish, so it made sense to get a job in a hospitality group. And I remember when I first came over, it was much harder than I expected it to be to get work. And I ended up getting a job making sometimes $40 a day, and it was part-time work, maybe a couple of days a week, and I was really struggling to kind of keep things together, you know what I mean? And it's kind of embarrassing, or at least it was back then. Right now I know that it kind of built me to be the person I am today, but when you're walking up to grocery stores and you're trying to buy food and you're counting every single item that you take off the shelf to see if you can afford it, and then when you get up to the cashier and you're like, actually, I can't afford all that, and you have to take something off the counter, it really gives you a sense of what the world is really like. You know what I mean? It takes the blinkers off, and this is real life. And I did that for years, and eventually, within a couple of years, I climbed the ladder pretty quickly over here. And within 2 years, I became a managing partner of one of the largest hospitality groups in New York City. And I did that for about 4 years, and I loved it. I was excellent at it. Like, you know, people are kind of afraid to say how good they are at things because of the fear of ego. But I think there's nothing wrong with speaking the truth about things. And I was very, very good at what I did, but I never felt fulfilled doing it. I've always been the sort of person who wants to help people. Always. You know, growing up, I was the one who my friends would come to when they needed to, like, overcome girl problems when they're 14, you know. So, like, all the way back from then, it was always the thing. And I always loved Tony Robbins. Always, you know, like when I saw the things that he did, it impacted me on such a level. Like, I've always been quite strong with empathy. So when I could see how he would impact people's lives and just turn people around, I was like, I would love to do that, but I never knew how to do it until a couple of coincidences came together. And I realized that coaching is actually a career that you could do. So I've always been a coach. Like, for as long as I can remember, I was coaching people, but I never actually studied it. Like, even when I was running the restaurants, I was the one who helped the executive chefs. I helped the partners. I helped the staff. Everyone kind of overcome whatever was in their way. And when I realized that the hospitality industry wasn't for me, because I felt like I was facilitating people who were almost sabotaging their life. Now, I have no problem with drinking, have no problem with going out for a couple of drinks. But when it becomes a habit and when it becomes your life, and I feel like I'm contributing to that, it just didn't sit right with me. So between that and a number of other issues that happened in the restaurant, I decided to exit that and really focus on coaching. And I went and I further my education by getting executive coaching qualified. And then I met up with Sarah, and the rest is history. So that's where I'm at the moment. And I love what I do. You know, I help CEOs, I help executives, high level leaders, entrepreneurs, and just help them achieve more success, more greater experiences in life, you know, and make immediate change and follow up with them so that they follow through on what they say. So for me, on a personal level, it's super, super rewarding and fulfilling.
Yeah. First of all, I would have never guessed Blink 182 would have been the connection, which is a really cool story, and MySpace of all places. Very cool. And through all this, you've been able to really find your calling. I imagine that took some, digging in, listening to your intuition. Obviously, you could tell that the path that you were on was not, it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't bringing you joy. I think a lot of guys have a lot of questions like that. We're coming out of a pandemic where we had a lot of time to, have those existential questions. Where am I going? What am I doing? Am I on the right path? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Very common questions. And I think it's very easy for people to get lost in those questions, right? So what was it like, or what was the turning point for you in terms of like finding your calling?
So for me, I remember the very incident that actually was like, okay, enough is enough. A lot of things had happened and I was kind of resisting it, which I think is normal for a lot of people, particularly men, right? We have this thing where we're providers, right? And we're macho. We can get through anything. I'll make it work and all that sort of stuff. And the cost of that is massive because you only get one shot on this planet, and to spend it fighting against what is clearly the wrong path is not the greatest use of your time. But it's what a lot of us know, right? And it's like, there's the opportunity cost of wasted time, right? And it's like, what if I take the wrong chance? And what if I do the wrong thing? And what if I leave this career and it doesn't work? So there's a lot of fear-based stuff that goes on. And for me, the incident which really turned for me, I had a partner who was in one of my restaurants with me, and we were renovating and starting a new restaurant. And I remember I walked up to it on a Sunday afternoon, right? Sunday was my day off. I did not want to go. And this was a red flag too. I didn't want to go anywhere near the restaurant. But I seen people up outside looking in the window. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I walked up and I looked in the window. The whole store had been cleaned out. One of the partners had pulled up with a truck at 4 a.m. in the morning, cleaned out the entire store, took everything, right? And then there was a whole legal nonsense that kind of followed that. And I'm like, you know what? This is clearly not for me. There's a load of signals here. It's time for me to jump in. So after getting all them signals and all the resistance I put in place, it became clear to me that I needed to make a choice. Either I stay here and wake up in 30 years with fuller regrets, or I step into this fear that I'm feeling about making a change. Because I knew hospitality inside out, but it was time to go. So it was in that incident, you got to pay attention to your gut. You got to listen to what's really going on within you and make that decision. But it's not easy. I'm the first to admit, I know it's a difficult decision to make. There's all the fears of if it doesn't work, or, and you'll hear the inner voice will tell you all the secrets too, or your family can't afford you to take a chance. You know what I mean? Or what will your friends say? What will your family say? So it's overcoming all that stuff. It's where the real struggle is.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, you felt like you lead with empathy, right? And a good coach is somebody who, to lead means to go first, right? And I imagine that you're creating an atmosphere where you're helping people to get through those fears, where you're helping to kind of, wrestle and contend with those questions that they deal with internally. The framework, and you also mentioned that you're working with entrepreneurs, people who want to be high performers. Yeah. You guys create a framework for how you're working with your clients. Can you kind of explain that framework a little bit?
Yeah, so if we were to focus specifically on high performance, so there's a couple of different things that we could do, right? We can work with people's fears, which is often the first stumbling block that you need to get past, because it's the one thing that paralyzes people. But there's also, I believe that, or I use, there's almost three P's of precision performance. And it begins with precision, right? So you want to be super clear on what it is you want to achieve. What are the results you're trying to make? You know, it's that expression that vagary is the enemy of action. Specificity is the friend of action. So once you get very specific on what it is you want to achieve, well, then you can start to move to the second step. And that's preparation, right? And that begins with planning your week. It's starting with the big goal and moving back through all the weeks and making smaller goals. So what is the bigger goal and how can we break that down? Because when you start with the bigger goal, as I'm sure you know, people get paralyzed because it's like, it's just too big a gap, right? It's like, I'm all the way over here. I want to own a private jet. How do I get there, right? And I'm like, I'll never get there. I need to stop. So it's all those sort of things. And then in order to make your goals kind of achievable, you got to get your planning correct, and that's part of your preparation. So I encourage people to do Friday planning. Every Friday I plan my next week. Some people like to do it on a Sunday. I like to do it on Friday, and then on Sunday I'll review what's coming up next week. And then the night before each day, you spend 20 minutes kind of reviewing what's coming up the next day. So you have them checks and balances in order to keep yourself accountable. And it's also why coaching is so valuable too, because I get to ask my clients, did you get it done? Right? And why not? Because quite often things get in the way. Quite often unintentional things or unconscious things have gotten in the way, and that stops people from really being able to achieve at the highest level. Or even the preparation, there's a thing which I often put in place called a buffer block. And a buffer block is like a 30-minute or 1 hour block per day where people are allowed to interrupt me, right? So my phone is on Do Not Disturb for most of the day, but there's this 1 hour when I'll allow people to kind of text me, or I'll respond to texts or to DMs or to emails and that sort of stuff. People in office spaces can really use that, because if you have a buffer block when people can approach your office, well then it's a much more positive, or it's a much more constructive way to get stuff done. Because if people are just knocking on your door at random times, you're in the middle of doing something and you're just getting disturbed, and that flow gets knocked out of state. So it's all those little elements will get your preparation in place. And then the final P is productivity. So what actually matters around what you're doing, right? What really moves the needle? And stick to time blocks. So if something is taking a half an hour, or you have it in place for half an hour in your schedule, well then it takes a half an hour. It doesn't take 45 minutes. It doesn't take an hour. So mindfully placing tasks in blocks that it works in is absolutely crucial in terms of your preparation. And you can use tactics too, like Pomodoro Blocks. Right? And a Pomodoro Block, have you heard of a Pomodoro Block before?
I haven't,
right,
no.
An amazing, so I can't remember, there was someone back in maybe the 1800s, or I don't know, maybe the 1980s, I can't remember. But they invented this thing called a Pomodoro Block, and it got the name from, he had a little like tomato-sized timer in his kitchen, and he took it into his office space. And what it did was, there's a 25-minute timer on it, and you work exclusively on a task for 25 minutes, and then for 5 minutes you prep the next one. So everything is 30-minute blocks, but 25 is dedicated, and then 5 minutes is prepping, is kind of giving you a rest, and then you're prepping for the next 25-minute block. So Pomodoro Blocks are game changers when people actually put them into place. And then there's other tricks you could do too, like putting your phone on grayscale mode, right? Because one of the things I've researched and found is that people are so distracted by their phone because the colours are so vibrant on it. So the brain, which is this prehistoric beast of a machine, sees all these colours and actually thinks it's fruit. So it's looking for food, right? So it sees all these colours and you're immediately distracted. So if you put your phone on grayscale mode, that will make a massive difference in terms of your productivity. So when you're precise and you prepare and you're highly active or productive, that's when you'll notice your performance really excels.
I'm taking personal notes here because I'm guilty of getting distracted, right? Mm-hmm. I get a little ADD myself.
Yeah.
So the thread through all of what you just went through, which is a really detailed and clearly proven model, the things that I pull from that are to be very disciplined. And to be very detailed, and to stay on that continued path, right? To make a commitment to a concerted effort each time. I think it would be fair to say that most of us, if we're not that specified or we're not that detailed, Monday looks very different than Tuesday, looks very different than Wednesday, looks very different than Thursday, and collectively that week cannot be very productive. Having said that, using a framework like this, when you are allocating 25 minutes here, then moving on to your next one, 25 minutes here, you're exclusively focusing on that. Your discipline is towards that for 25 minutes and nothing else. And you're eliminating distraction. That takes an inordinate amount of discipline. And I can imagine that takes a little bit of coaching and, because you're dealing with people's anxieties. And so what's that like when you're trying to, get people to work within that model?
Yeah. So it's a really good question, because what's very important about it is that you don't start with this monumental sized goal, right? Which most people do. And that's why they struggle, right? It's overwhelming and they get that paralysis by analysis because they have this massive goal. If you start with really small steps, right, it makes it easier. So I always say, let's make the first goal very easy, right? So discipline is one of them really interesting things. Like for me, it's the more I think about it, the more I feel like it's like that holy grail, and people just haven't really discovered it, right? It's like the secret to life, or the meaning of life, even what people will call it, because it is the key to achieving and receiving everything you want in life. So if you look at people who, let's say from every aspect of life, so Christians who are disciplined in terms of prayer will and following the teachings of God will get what they want. People who want the body that they want, if they're disciplined in terms of getting it, they will get the body that they want. People who want to achieve incredible things in business, as long as they're disciplined, they will get it. So it's this really interesting thing, which is the key to receiving everything that we want in life, but it also seems to be the hardest thing that people are able to do, right? And that's why, like, everything you could ever want is a gift from discipline, as long as you can put it in the work. And what's really interesting for me about discipline too is it's self-love, right? And a lot of people don't really know. Like, a lot of people I would ask about self-love, and it's like you need to love yourself first before you can really kind of love other people. And this is getting kind of deep, but it's probably worth going there.
No, man, this is what we're about.
Yeah,
man. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, and I think more men need to talk about this stuff. So, like, self-love is something that a lot of people struggle with. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to feel it. They don't know what to do with it, right? It's just like this weird kind of taboo or woo-woo idea, right? It's just like, what is that? It's discipline. It's very, very simply described as discipline, and it's the matter of doing what you need to do instead of what you want to do, right? But to go back to your question, in order to get to that point where you're doing what you want to, or what you need to do rather than what you want to do, you need to start small, right? It's a never-ending battle between that want and that need. So for me, I'll give you an example, right? I like to think of myself as being incredibly disciplined. So my morning routine, I wake up at 5 a.m. I go for a walk every morning, and then I do, I call them, they're morning incantations. It's a Tony Robbins idea, right? He calls them incantations. Some people call them affirmations. And it's basically affirming something about yourself, right? So it's like, you might sound like a crazy man kind of walking down the road saying this stuff, but it works, right? You're telling yourself over and over, all I need is within me now. All the knowledge that I need is in me now. All the skills that I need is within me now. And I'm actually working on doing almost like a guided meditation. It's not a meditation, it's a guided affirmation audio thing, which is about 25 minutes long, where it walks through these 3 steps. So the first step is breathing, second step is gratitude, and then there's visualizations, and then there's actually 4 steps. The fourth step is the final incantations, and it's reaffirming everything that you want to be, right? And I think it's kind of helpful for men to think about this. It's like, who do you want to be, right? What are the 3 characteristics or the 3 words that you want to describe about who you are? So do you want to be loving? Do you want to be respectful? Do you want to be disciplined? Do you want to be successful? Any of those things you can kind of add into your morning incantations. So it's like, all the respect that I need is in me now. All the love that I need to give is within me now. And you say it in sort of a chant, it's like on a 4/4 beat. And it just reaffirms that into you. And it's a great way of building discipline in the morning. So I do those, and then I have a cold shower. And there's not a single day, not one single morning, am I like, can't wait for my cold shower. Never, right? It's like, still to this day, it's painful. But I do 10 minutes every single day at a minimum, right?
Yeah, I've tried the cold shower out. It's not for the weak.
It's brutal.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's interesting because once you get to like maybe 2.5 or 3 minutes, it doesn't get any colder, right? It's kind of maxed out. And then you can, like, I honestly think I could do a half an hour or an hour, but it's just like 10 minutes is enough, right? But it's like getting to that 3 or 4 minute mark where your body, I don't know if your body adjusts or if your body's just too cold or if it's numb. I don't know what it is. But once you get to that point, you're good to go. But still to this day, like every time, like after 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds, my brain is like, Ciarán, get out. What are you doing? Get out, right? And it's just like, no, I'm not doing it because I say to myself, like a crazy man, during them showers, when I say go, we go, right? And I'm reaffirming it in myself. When Ciarán says go, his body goes. That's it. There's no debate. There's no like questioning it. When I say go, we go, right? So that's my way of kind of staying disciplined and staying focused in the moment. I feel like if I wasn't saying that, I would struggle with it even more because my mind would be running loose, right?
Yeah, you're building you're working a muscle. Mm-hmm. It's the same way that you would be building muscle in the gym or getting in better shape or learning a new subject. It's repetition. You're getting in front of your own roadblocks, potentially your roadblock of talking yourself out of it, right?
Yeah.
So before you could even go, no, it's too cold. No, I'll do 2 tomorrow. No, I'll do an even colder one an hour from now. Mm-hmm. You're just like, you get in front of that. And that's a fear blocking mentality that says, I see it, I want it, I go for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to come back to something that you said about the self-help thing, because I think that that's so huge. Yeah. One of the things that we're really big on here is to both view and to both treat men as more than just utility.
Right.
So I think, that's just, even growing up, that's kind of the preconceived notion that a lot of us are growing up as having, is that you're there to provide and you're there to do this, and this. Well, that lacks a lot of human depth, mm-hmm. in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the way that it sounds like you guys, help do that mm-hmm. is to get very intentional, right? Set specific goals, stick to them, get in front of your fears. Create a roadblock or create a narrative and also create a path for success, right? So you're working with entrepreneurs, you're working with solopreneurs, right? What are some of the things that people are coming to you and asking you for?
Right.
Do they want to shave 6 minutes off their mile? Do they want to, have a yacht? Give us an idea of the kind of clients that you're working with and what are some of the goals that they're after?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. So one thing I have noticed that all the men, and most of my clients are men, and there is like a common thread that I noticed that goes through a lot of my calls. And it's this idea of just like they need help, right? And what makes these calls so powerful for me on a personal level, right? So we do cover all the business stuff, right? Whether if it's executives I'm working with, or whether it's like a hedge fund guy who I'm working with. I have other people who just want to work with me on personal basis. So it does very much depend on what's important to that person in that moment. But one thing I have noticed is that men don't talk about these things enough, right? Like if you talk to any woman, most of them have a circle of friends who they talk about everything. Like there's no limit to what they'll talk about, right? It's just like everything is on the table. Let's just talk about it. Yep. You go into a men's group, and I don't mean like a men's health group. I just mean a group of men, and they might talk about football. They might talk about MMA. They might talk about beer and who knows what else. But start telling them about how sad you feel inside, or the dark times that you feel when you're sitting at home, or that you feel like incapable of really providing for your family on a level that you want. No chance. So What I have noticed is a lot of guys do have this stuff that they need to talk about, but they don't know where to go with it. And that's for me, it's probably the most fulfilling. Like, I love helping people achieve beyond their wildest dreams further, faster than they ever thought they could. You know, I love watching people be successful. But probably on a deeper level, when I really help people who have, whether it's issues at home or whatever it is, it's just incredibly fulfilling. And sometimes just talking about this is enough. You know, like, you don't need the solution to it. You just need to know that, yeah, I'm normal. These are normal things, right? And not everyone is like John Wayne. And I think that's half the problem. Everybody thinks a man needs to be John Wayne, right? I don't know. John Wayne syndrome. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it's like, that's what it seems to be. We have this feeling that we need to be like these powerful Arnold Schwarzenegger style people who are just like bulletproof. And really underneath it all, we're just human beings who just want a bit of love and just want a bit of respect. So that's definitely a common thread that I see.
Amen, my brother. That you captured it perfectly right there. That is at the heart of everything we're doing. So we're going to take a break. That's going to wrap it up for part one. If you like what you're hearing and you want to find out a little bit more about working with Ciarán, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. So if people are looking for success or greater experiences in their life, they got to check out freelingcoaching.com. And I guess we'll put a link to that in the show notes too. We have this specifically designed coaching for a variety of issues. So whether it's people or growth you're looking for, or maybe you need leadership or executive or entrepreneurial help in terms of presence, emotional intelligence, or developing a more positive culture, we're here to help you, right? So if that's for you, check us out. It's Freeling Coaching, and I also have an Instagram. I've a YouTube channel, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Search my name and it'll pop up.
Yeah, we'll post those links, and you can bet some of our listeners are gonna reach out to you. Stay tuned for part two. Ciarán, thank you so much. We will be back with you here very shortly.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks.
Cheers. Hey guys, thanks again for joining us on another episode here at Men Explain Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also the bell icon as well, so you can be notified when we push out new videos. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and drop them at hosts, that's plural, HOSTS, at menexplainpodcast.com, or just visit our website, menexplainpodcast.com. Thanks again.